I told him I didn't want to sell it, and he's like, just give me a price. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Was a ridiculous amount of money to me, at least at the time.
Yeah.
Throw it, and he actually bought it, and I was like, this is crazy.
So welcome everybody to our first episode of Immigrant Entrepreneurs, where we want to highlight immigrant entrepreneurs. Today we got a very special guest, Bo. He's actually one of my closest friends, and he's always like traveling. So I'm very excited to have him here. But I'll let him introduce. I'll let you introduce yourself, Bo. Go ahead. You know, tell the people who you are, what you do. Yeah, tell people who you are.
Got it. So my name is Bo. Glad to be here, y'all. I'm an artist, fashion designer, do some activism work, quote unquote. I mean, I've just been involved with the community, but always hard to introduce myself. But in short, I'm an undocumented dude from Thailand without DACA. I needed a way to like survive and build my own way, so I kind of venture into selling clothes, creating to a clothing brand, work with like different nonprofit, and work as a contractor, whether it be like doing workshops and have tutor kids. So just jumping around doing various different things.
Yeah, awesome. So let's take me back to the, I think we won't have time to talk about all your different ventures because you made money on different ways, but talk to me a little bit more on, how did you get started with the clothing brand? How do you start printing out shirts? How did you get the idea? Like how did it go from idea? What was your initial idea?
Okay, cool. So the first shirt I made was in 2016. If y'all remember, this was when there was a DACA expansion and DAPA. When I first went to college, I was just on this road still where I'm like, all right, man, maybe DACA expansion is going to come out. I'm going to be able to get like a a work permit so that I could get internship and professionalize myself. But then when it wasn't looking like it was working, and then when it actually dropped, so I spent a lot of time advocating, I just felt like I didn't want to rely on government. Yeah, so I was really doing art at the time, and I had created like the Undocumented art collective. So this started in school first, and it was a space for us to just kind of like make art and live life and do things like that, and kind of go beyond our narrative of immigration in general, and like have space to process and heal. So I think it really started as something very personal before it even became a business. When the law didn't pass, I ended up printing these clothes that say existential crisis, because my existence is their crisis. And this was the time when, why are they, like they're talking about immigration crisis and refugee crisis as we are the problem when their system is the problem. So I just wanted to bring advocacy to a lifestyle level, but also to express myself and also venture into like the world of art and clothing, right? Because I feel like I didn't want to box myself into just an undocumented person. So from all of that, I through like open mic shows with like other undocumented artists doing like poetry, showcasing their art, and I started selling clothes. Eventually, I actually sold a drawing on a 8.5 by 11, and I was really proud of this because it was one of my favorite drawings. And this person who worked at the UCI at the time, he really wanted it, and I told him I didn't want to sell it, and he's like, just give me a price. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Was a ridiculous amount of money to me, at least at the time.
Yeah.
Throw it. So I told him I'm gonna sell it for $1,000, and he actually bought it, and I was like, this is crazy. So with that $1,000, I took $400 from it, and I printed clothes with it, and then from there, I kind of doubled up that money. So that was like my first taste of, selling clothes and doubling that up, and then 2018, I was about to graduate. A lot of people like one of the Statue of Liberty clothes that I had, the artwork. So I printed long sleeve and actually did it for like only $3 profit at the time. But I had like all this pre-order because everybody wanted it. So I had like people rocking it. And then I also had created like a art project called Bowtie and Friends that tells stories of undocumented folks. So back then I was really in that storytelling world and trying to bring my artistic aspects. I combine it. Mm-hmm. So it was nice to see like 30 people plus pulling up to my show with all my clothes. So it really felt great. And then after that, long story short, I ended up moving to Chicago for some work. And I was working. I was still selling clothes on Instagram, and I would use the
Yeah.
print work to print out shipping labels. At one point, I even paid the high school youth who comes to the NACA program to ship
Yeah.
my clothes for me.
Yeah.
And I would just sell it off Instagram on like, this is the designer mock-up. Who wants it? They want it. Boom, boom, boom. But in Chicago, I was also able to tap in with the underground artist scene, and they taught me how to screen print. They showed me the plug, and I used to go to underground shows. So that's really like the journey. And the brand officially starts in 2020. Before the pandemic hit, I had like prepared for it since 2019, but I launched it in 2020. I think it was like maybe February 2nd, 2020. I'm not sure. It was like a bunch of tools.
Mm-hmm.
But so when I first launched it, I had a lot of troubles with manufacturing because prior to that, when I was doing underground show, I used to print on thrifted clothes and I would sell that
Mm-hmm.
in the show. But then when I came back to LA, like I tapped in more to the manufacturing aspect of things.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of money to front up the design and all that. So at first, I bought the machine and I just screen printed at home, and I had like
Mm-hmm.
come over and help. So we were like, I was doing everything from designing to production to shipping to trying to go out there and sell different places. And at this point, I have like throughout my work in like the movement,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
nonprofit. I also share a lot of my stories and share a lot of like ways that we can navigate life being undocumented. So I have later on combined the brand, my advocacy, and my skill set together. So I was giving talks and doing pop up with the clothing. But then also, I'm losing like memories of how this all started because I tried so many methods. But at one point, I also did some pre-order, and that really helped me get off the ground because people was interested in my clothes. So I charged them for the clothes, and then I took the money that I made from that to go and run production because I couldn't front it. So it was
Yeah.
it was rough in a way that I needed to really do everything by myself. And also, thankfully, because the community was so strong and there was so much support, that relationship built since 2018, right? Through like either friends, movement, or art space,
Yeah.
helped me like really thrive when I first started.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot that you mentioned here, and I think the one thing that I do want to kind of go back to is this concept of of learning. Like, how'd you learn everything? I'm not one that, like, I know how to print a shirt. You say it like it's nothing. You bought like a machine. But how'd you learn all of this? Like, did you go on YouTube? I know you mentioned you were part of like a little group for some time, but how'd you
So
learn it?
I think in Chicago, I met some people who taught me. So they used to have it set up at home. So there was like a couple people. So there was two people that taught me how to screen print from scratch, and then other people who was doing like vine heat pressing. So making
Mhm.
clothes, that's at home at least. There's screen printing and heat pressing. And if you really have money, you can do like the DTG, but you need to buy a machine. But let's keep it at screen printing and heat press. Heat
Mhm.
press, you can do things. You can print out vinyl, cut it out, put it on the clothes, and then you heat press it, and then that's how it sticks on. Or you can do it with transfer paper. I know I'm getting into the technical aspect, and screen printing is like you can make your screen, which is like a stencil, then you squeeze ink through it. There's a couple types of ink, then you dry it with a heat gun or like a heat thing. So there's different ways to do it. So I was able to see different setup in Chicago and in LA, maybe like three people. And then from there I just kind of asked them questions and pick it up on myself, and it was just experimental. It was just like learning on the go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now I want to go back to this other thing that you mentioned, that, like, you tried a few different things. You tried pre-ordering. You also tried, different prices. How'd you come up with your pricing? Like, I know that's one of the things that, like, when people are starting a business, even me, like, I struggle with this. It's like, how do I price something? How did you know, how to price your shirts? Or, like, yeah, how'd you find that about on how to do that?
I think right now I'm still struggling, but what I used to do initially was I look at the market price, and then I try to see first I went below the market price because I wanted it to be a win-win situation where
Hmm.
I wanted to create the product. The business started from me just wanting to create a product of what I wanted in the market, right? Which
Hmm.
was combined with advocacy. And I think like that has a story and has meaning behind it. And I realized I couldn't sustain myself and that like there was a lot of labor involved. So then I kind of went up on the price. So I would say you can either, and then one friend actually helped me out with this, is you can think of like percentage, right? You know, you can like think like, oh, I want to make whatever point, whatever percent like profit. And then from there, you can just add on to it. But I would say you need to take in account of labor, taking account of everything. Because at first I was like, oh, okay, maybe like something costs $5, I could just sell it for 7,
Yeah.
maybe or 10, right? But I was like, okay, hold on, I still need to ship it, I still need to package it, I still need to print it. I'm not gonna sell all the product, da 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 da. So I
Yeah.
was factor a lot in. So yeah, I'm not. You can ask me more questions too, but there's so many elements, right? At the end of the day,
Mhm.
it's up to you. You either need to hold on to another contract job and do something to figure it out where like it can balance it out and then build the demand until that price is sustainable. Or you can price it up in a way that you will make that money right away, but then you might not have that kind of demand. So I think it's like this kind of game too. But I would say just research market price and see what you can offer, and also there's different model to have people understand too, right? Like sometimes it's you're also not a factory, so you also can't compete with factory prices. That's
Yeah.
at first, right? It's like I can't move like these big factories. Mass
Yeah.
production,
Yeah.
of course, like I'm a lot lower in terms of the cost of production.
You got it. Got it. Yeah. So like talk to me a little bit about like some of the hardships that you went through. Like what were some of the things that like you struggled with? I know you mentioned that you were like a one person team trying to do everything right. Like what are some of the like if you could choose like 1 2 hardships that you went through and how you overcame them, like do you
I
have any?
definitely managing it myself and being a one person team, right?
Mhm.
I've had people come in and help here and there, definitely throughout a lot of people actually, but I think doing everything by yourself is very difficult. And it's hard for me to bring in people because I also don't have the money to really pay them, right?
Yeah.
So the partnership aspect needs to be a thing. I think when you think of business, there's a couple of things. There's one is like you can hustle it out of survival, and I feel like that's the route I went for. But I
Yeah.
was a business that is sustainable. And there's also a different thing that I usually talk to my friend about is you can sell a product or you can sell a brand. And as long as you're just selling product, it just become like a numbers game. I'm not
Yeah.
shame on it, but you feel me? It's just you just selling product, right? It's just, this is just you just selling anything. I think building a successful business requires to sell a brand or sell it a bigger picture. I think sometimes it's just like, all right, I'm gonna buy this, sell that, buy this, sell that. So you're putting all the labor on you and you're like competing against the world. So I think the hard part for me, I say, is capacity one, and the second thing is managing.
Mhm.
Manage having the time to learn and optimize and iterate the business. But if you set the business in a way that it requires so much of your capacity with no team, then you don't have time to do that. So those are my struggle really. And
Yeah.
your personal emotions too, because entrepreneurship also requires you to be stable and to be managing yourself. So that's also a struggle with as like life goes up and down, different things hit. Yeah.
Yeah, and how'd you like balance it, right? Like mental health wise, like what do you do to like kind of because it is a true thing, right? When you're building a business, a lot of people don't they look at like, oh yeah, he has he's building a brand, he has these clothes, like he has these clothes, but how'd you or what recommendations would you give somebody like starting out, right? That doesn't understand the mental, like how'd you manage that, like mental health? How'd you do that?
And I'll be honest, I'm struggling with it right now. That's why I kind of keep
Yeah,
going break and coming back. But
yeah,
I, I think you need a routine or like a system. At the end of the day, business is still a system, right? Like people think business is gonna free you. That's what I thought. I'm gonna make money and just be free. But
yeah.
actually, like a baby, you need to require a system to keep it alive and then keep you with a healthy relationship with this thing that you created.
Mhm.
So I would say like organization is very important because when you're not organized and everything's all over the place, there's more anxiety. That's what happened to me. Sometimes I don't keep the best track of profit, the best track of inventory. And it's like these are basic 101s, right? But again, like I say, being a one person team, sometimes for me, it's like I want to do more than I could. So I would say I needed to slow down, slow the business, because sometimes you have such a far vision but no capacity. So you move too fast to like have this whole like thing stay intact, and that's what's driving you more crazy. But if you slow it down or add in capacity, then you have more time to structure and organize. So you know exactly each day from then to then I'm gonna work on it. These are the initial goals. So set goals. These are the things I need to do today to reach those goals. And then these are the activities that I'm doing to take care of myself, whether that be exercising, patient, support group, da da da. So I feel like that's what I would say now to do. Or even if the business is not in a way that can just sustain itself, maybe there's a side income too. So there's a money to invest in terms of sometimes things don't go always the way that you want it to be. So also, I think my business it goes like, and then my mind also goes like that, right? So
Yeah.
with nothing to like be the stable in the business, the life, or the cash flow, it gets even crazier.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think those are like great tips. How like I see there's a correlation between mental health, but also your business, how it does. Like you mentioned, like when you're like at your peak, your business is also at your peak, but when you're not doing as well, it's also kind of like all over the place. Um, so finishing it up here, I do want to ask you if there's like any accomplishment that stands out to you that you're like, this is my biggest accomplishment today. Not sure if there's anything that comes to mind that you want to share.
I mean, I feel like there's a couple, right? So I think when I started illegal drip, it was just like it was something that I felt like I would do unconditionally. Which I would be in the movement, I would be creative, and I would be doing things that I like to do, and also creating my own agency. I think my accomplishment would be that how much love it received from the community. It kind of spread so wide, like
Mm-hmm.
all different states. At some point, I made clothes for different school, different marches in DC, but also like people would just know illegal drip now, or like undocumented people or allies will see each other in the brand in different states, and they'll tell me about it. And I think that's probably the biggest one. Like, yes, I did have some placement, I did make some money, did have some subscriber, but I think the biggest accomplishment is that it really resonated with people and people feel seen, and people, it just became like a thing, another thing within our community. And I guess maybe that's too big for me to say, but I'm glad that I could kind of like, bring something into this group of people.
Yeah. Well, first of many, I'm sure your brands are going to continue. I'm sure you're still going to continue, and you're going to continue bringing more value, and even having this conversation, right? Like I'm sure that somebody is going to hear it and they're going to be like, all right, I want to start my own, clothing company, or, how can I help out? So I think that's really like the key with this. It's like, so as long as somebody sees it, whether it's here, whether it's on Reels, whether it's wherever, they're gonna feel inspired. And I think that's what we're really like, going for. So we're gonna end it off with like a speed round. I'm just gonna ask you like what I think there's like 3 questions,
Okay.
and you could just answer it with like one word or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah. So the first question is, who inspires you?
Damn. I don't know, man. I can't say that. I think that's too. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't say that. I would say artists and the movement. Yeah, I know that's. But
Yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong. Yeah. And then this is the last question. It's a fun question. All right. So if you were a vegetable, what vegetable would you be? And if so, like why? Like why would you be that vegetable?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind is onions, because I love onion. I think
Really?
yeah, onion or garlic, but I love onion. I feel like eat onion with anything. Onion goes in everything, like fried rice, tacos, like shit, anything. I don't know, burgers. And I mean, onion make you cry and you peel layers. And I feel like, I don't know, that's just something of onion just seems deep. Like just layers in people.
Yeah.
Situation make you cry. And I just love onions.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, I mean, those are all the questions, but I do want to leave it open to you. You know, like if do you want to leave any piece of advice to somebody that wants to start a business out there?
Yeah, I would say use Instagram. I mean, I don't know, use Instagram anymore, but um, I mean, follow Prepare Web. I think they have good resources for sure. I mean, this platform, I think Immigrants Rising is cool, Undocumented Professional is cool. You can always reach out to me. I think social media is your game. Okay, hold on. Advice. I think do what you know, what you can do. I think for me, I started at least, right? First business, at least what you can do and the community that you have. You don't need to like reinvent the wheel. Just start with what you already know how to do or what would you like to do unconditionally and start with around the people you know. You don't need to do something you don't know. I feel like business is intimidating enough already. So just, yeah, make it less friction as possible.
Yeah, awesome. And
And
and with that,
there's a bunch of free tools too, you know? So yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And by the way, I didn't tell him to say follow Prepare Web, y'all. Like, so,
I know he didn't, but I'm just saying, you know.
but awesome. Well, we can end it there, Bo. I really appreciate your time. And if people want to like get in contact with you, like what can I share with them, or like what do you want to give your socials? I'll put them on the screen.
Yeah, you can put my social on screen. They can always DM me. I mean, they could even email me. You want me to put my email down? No, just hit me on social. That's the fastest way to respond. I will put my number here, but we don't know how far.
No, 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 no,
Put
no.
this out, you know, so